So those Nolan Arenado rumors about being traded to the Angels, they've been floating out there for a while. And JD Hafron of Locked On Cardinals, he won't stop bothering us about it. He wants us to make a trade. So can he convince us, the Super Halo Bros, that the Angels would benefit from Arenado? And what would it take to make it happen? This is a Locked On Angels and Locked On Cardinals crossover.
You are Locked On MLB Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels and Locked On Cardinals your first listen of the day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day, and the #1 sports podcast network in all the land. And today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of all the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long.
Thanks for being here for this crossover edition of Locked On Angels and Locked On Cardinals. My name's John Frisch. I'm one half of Locked On Angels. With me is my brother Mike. We make up the Super Halo Bros and the hosts of Locked On Angels. And then we have JD Hafron of Locked On Cardinals. Cardinals fans know him very, very well. Guys, this is an awkward position for me because Mike, you're my co-host on Locked On Angels. JD, you're my co-host on Locked On MLB Game Night during the regular season. So no fighting, okay? No fighting over me. We need to keep it civil. We need to keep it clean, all right?
We talked about just getting rid of you and doing a show together, right, JD?
Exactly. I don't know why. Scoot aside, John. I've had enough of you.
Well, listen, during the off season, we're here a few times a week talking Angels baseball, talking Cardinals baseball, and then we'll ramp back up in early February as we continue our conversation, get ready for 2026. Now, the Arenado to the Angels rumors have been heating up. And as Angels fans, we have our doubts if it's the right move, especially after getting rid of the albatross over at third base known as Anthony Rendon. So what would it take for the Cardinals to be willing to do to sweeten the deal? And what would it take to get it done? But first, JD of Locked On Cardinals is here to convince us why we should want Arenado. Mike, why don't you get us started here?
Yeah, JD, we spoke about Arenado this week on our show. We've talked about him a few times over the past few weeks, and we see that there's a real decline in his offense over the last few seasons, but he would be an upgrade for the Angels at third base offensively and defensively because they sucked last year. They were not good last year. He strikes out less. He plays better defense than Yoan Moncada and Luis Rengifo. We had both of them at third base last year. Biggest thing is that this feels like a real Artie Moreno move for us and our everydayers, Angel fans. Get rid of a bad contract just to add another bad contract in Arenado. But Arenado has name value, and Artie loves name value. He loves going and getting those guys that will put the butts in the seats. He really likes that. Now, there is a no-trade clause. We know that about Arenado. So he would have to say yes to this. He previously said no, which was probably a smart decision. Being an Angel fan, this team's kind of a mess. But, JD, you have been hounding us, particularly John, about the Angels taking Arenado. And you need to, take a breath and maybe do some yoga. But we thought it'd be great to have a conversation. We want to give you the floor. Is there any world where Angel fans could feel good about the Halos taking on Nolan Arenado? Ready, set, the floor is yours.
All right. So start off. You're going to get your hands on a future Hall of Famer. All right. There's something to be said about that. It wasn't that long ago that he was still pulling in votes for the MVP. So there's still some juice there. He's a great clubhouse guy. Not sure how the clubhouse works in LA with the Angel side of things, like how that's been over the last few years. But Arenado's been that guy that's, he fits in seamlessly with just about everybody. He's more of a veteran guy. So certainly he and Mike Trout would get along great, being the veterans on the team and taking on that leadership role. He's not one of those guys. I will say this. He's not one of those guys that's like, let's go, you got to do this and stuff. He's not there to teach the kids, but he can show you. He's one of those guys that the young guys can watch on an everyday basis and learn from of how he goes about his business. Even as great as he's been over all these years, he's still so tedious about what he does when he's preparing for games, whether it's watching video, whether it's in the field. So he'd be a good example for the younger guys that are on the squad. I still believe he's got something to prove. He came into this last year look, I know I can do this still. And he just got hurt, and that was a problem. Obviously, injuries as you get older is an issue. But I can tell you this much: he hasn't quit on the sport of baseball like that last guy you guys gave $200-something million to. So that won't be an issue. He would certainly get a kick out of being on the West Coast again. He's a California guy, which, people tend to, when you're younger, there's always those nerves that you're not going to, play well in front of your home crowd and your family. At this point in Arenado's career, like, he would cherish that. And I feel like that would give him even something more incentive to play for and do well again, being back in Cali. And he's really good at the hot corner still. Like, and I know that he didn't win the Gold Glove and he hasn't really been in the voting the last couple of years. I don't watch Ke'Bryan Hayes play third every day, or Matt Chapman, or many of these other guys that have won the Gold Glove over him the last couple seasons. But I've been watching Nolan Arenado over the last few years, day in and day out, and the dude is still as slick as he has ever been. The arm strength isn't a cannon like maybe it was 4 years ago, but he's dead on accurate, and he just still makes the routine plays like no big deal. He can do those in his sleep, but he makes the difficult plays look routine, like the barehanded plays. Like, it's amazing how easy he makes these plays look. And this year when he had the injuries, we got to see what it was like having a third baseman not named Nolan Arenado. We had a guy named Nolan Gorman who was supposed to be one of our top prospects. You use the word suck. That's what it felt like watching a human being play third base, because we've been so spoiled over the years to have Nolan Arenado and his greatness over there at third base defensively. It's a treasure to watch him do it. Like, it really is. As somebody who really appreciates defense the way Cardinal fans usually do, defense and stolen bases, stuff like that. That's always been one of the Cardinal things, the Cardinal way. But defense is always very important, and he's incredible still over at third base. Again, the injuries cost him time. First time he's really dealt with missing a lot of games due to an injury, which was unfortunate, because when we talk about the offensive side of Nolan Arenado, June, he was starting to really heat up. He's been a slow starter a lot of his career in St. Louis. I don't remember what he was like with Colorado, but it was always like, as the weather got warmer, so did Nolan Arenado. When things were picking up in June for him, and then the injuries happened. Was hitting .246 with 10 home runs and 42 ribbies in the first half last year. The total OPS plus was at 106. Had he remained healthy, had he doubled those numbers, 20-plus home runs, 80-plus RBIs, you're talking about a guy who would have been in the top 5 among all third basemen in home runs and RBIs. Like, people just brush that aside like he was having this horrendous season. It's just when the injuries came, he never fully recovered and wasn't able to get back to what he was doing in that first half. So I think there's a lot of reason to be optimistic about Nolan Arenado, but I completely understand the pessimistic side as you see the age and you see the numbers, on the decline the last couple seasons. I just think there is still some reason to have faith in a guy who's got the determination of a Nolan Arenado. He's one of the great character guys in the game, and I hate that the Cardinals are trying to get rid of him. I wish he could stick around and prove everybody wrong in St. Louis, but the place that they are timetable-wise with what Arenado wants to do with his career and chances to win and go to the playoffs again doesn't really line up with what's going on in St. Louis right now. Not because it's his fault, but the organization as a whole failed him and a lot of people over the last couple of years, and hence why they've been selling some people off. So those are a lot of the positive points about Nolan, and I think he's fantastic. And if he were to, and you already know he looks good in red and white, so he's got the with you guys. So there's a lot of good things still going on about Arenado that I think fans would be happy about. And, change of scenery it's a thing, yeah. Certain players, you wear out your welcome in a certain area and things get mundane and dull, and then something new happens and it sparks you up. Talk about like John just moved, right? He just moved to different homes, and now there's a new energy around the household than there was before. I feel like that could happen with Nolan Arenado in the right spot. California, LA feels like one of the places that he might flourish.
Here's why we struggle with this. We have so many players that have come to Anaheim in the last few years, and they fit some of the categories that you just talked about. Oh, he's going to be a great veteran. He's going to teach these people how to do these things. He's going to be a great leader in the clubhouse. The problem is, on the field, hasn't been a help at all. Kenley Jansen was the only guy that didn't fit that category. He actually came in and did the clubhouse stuff, but then he performed on the field. And that's why we loved him. And so that's the biggest struggle for our everydayers, for me and John, is we'd want to get a guy who's another clubhouse guy. We want a guy who can perform on the field. So what I heard from you is it's the injuries that slowed him down, because he had his career low before this year. He never hit below 400 slugging, right? This year was under 400. So what I'm hearing is the injuries really played a part in his decline this last season. And if he wasn't hurt, he probably would have put up really strong numbers. Am I hearing you correctly?
Yeah, and before this year, the previous year as well, it's been, and I'm not going to BS anybody, it's been a nagging back injury that continues to pop up. Old man back injuries, they happen. And maybe it's because no one's out there trying to be the everyday guy still, and maybe he doesn't need to be. Maybe he needs to be more of like 120 games a season type of guy and be told, dude, you got to sit down, okay? This is like, it's not working. It's knocking you out for weeks at a time instead of you pushing through for one game. But it's been a back thing. It's not like he's pulling hamstrings or any other like soft tissue injuries. It's not anything severe injury like Wills Contreras when he had his forearm broken. It's just kind of a nagging back injury that has happened. And in these years too, the Cardinals haven't pushed him to get back on the field right away because they weren't in a spot that they were winning and needed him to come back right away. So this past year, I think it was just 23 games in the second half. If I look it up and check it out, but it wasn't much. But the first half, 23 games in the second half this past year. So in the first half, when the Cardinals were relevant and were one of the surprises in baseball, Nolan Arenado was a big part of that and why they were where they were at the time.
I gotta say, and I know that we have our feelings about Artie Moreno and how he wants to get butts and seats and have a name drop. But like, as a baseball fan, putting aside my like objective, is this good? Is this bad? To be honest, I'd really love to see Arenado play in Anaheim. Like I understand everything that, all the good and the bad that comes along with it. But I'm like, man, that'd be a lot of fun to see.
Yeah. And if I say on this point too, and I hope I'm not jumping ahead of anything here, but we're not talking about a 7-year deal here, boys. We're talking about 2 years. We're talking about 2 years. And this isn't something that's going to handcuff you guys for a long time. And I believe we are going to talk about what kind of deals could be made here to facilitate such a deal that makes sense for both. Because if you're not paying Nolan Arenado a whole lot of money, he might be worth it to you guys to give it a try over there at third, I think.
And that's the perfect transition as we continue this Locked On crossover of Locked On Angels and Locked On Cardinals. Thanks for making it your first listen of the day. Coming up, what's the money involved? What would the rest of the contract look like if the Angels and the Cardinals were to make a move? We're going to talk about all of that coming right up.
Managing your finances can feel very overwhelming between subscriptions that you forgot about, bills that just keep going up, and trying to figure out where all your money is actually going each month. It's easy to feel like you're losing control, and who has time to go over every transaction and hunt down every hidden fee? That's where Rocket Money comes in, the personal finance app that helps you take control. It finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills so that you can grow your savings. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/lockedon. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network out there, and we thank you for making this crossover edition of Locked On Angels and Locked On Cardinals your first listen of the day. We appreciate you being here. Hey, if you haven't done so yet and you're an everydayer, you never miss an episode of Locked On Angels, of Locked On Cardinals, join the Everydayer Club, where you can, for $5 a month, get exclusive access to commercial-free episodes, audio feed of Locked On Angels or Locked On Cardinals. You can get that without interruptions. You can also join a members-only Discord. So many bonuses that come along with it. We'd love for you to join the Everydayer Club. So go to Locked On Angels or LockedOnCardinals.supercast.com or check out the link in the episode description to learn more.
All right, let's talk about money. Nolan Arenado has 2 years left on his contract. JD, you pointed that out in segment 1. Owed $27 million in 2026. Colorado Rockies are paying him $5 million of that $27 million. So technically, he's going to have about $22 million on his contract, and he's owed $15 million in 2027, which is the final year of his contract. That would be a total of $37 million across 2 years. And something notable for the Angels, they love staying under the luxury tax. Arenado's average annual value would be about $30.5 million towards the luxury tax. Angels right now currently are under the first luxury tax threshold at about $53 million. And Johnny, recently we talked about some of the trades that the Cardinals made with other teams, specifically the Red Sox, and how they ate some money. So why don't you recap that real quick, and then let's fire some questions at JD.
Yeah. Do you guys trade with anybody else other than Boston? It's the Heim Bloom connection, isn't it, JD?
It is, and it's the Boston's willing to deal. Like some of these guys, because some of these guys are held up because of what they might be able to do in free agency. Where Boston's like, all right, we're trying to get Bregman, and we tried to get Schwarber, didn't work, so we're ready. Let's go, wheel and deal it.
Yeah.
So, and another thing we thought about was that maybe Sonny Gray and Wilson Contreras were two guys that, like, again, no trade clauses, just like Arenado, but maybe they had kind of a deadline of like, hey, if something's going to happen, I need it to happen by this point, if it's possible, or I'll probably just come back to you. And that's absolutely not what the Cardinals wanted, was to have these guys coming back. So Arenado feels like it's a guy too that I don't think he wants to wait until spring training starts to have something done. Like, I think he's ready to rock and roll with whatever it may be. The third base market, obviously, with Bregman being Bregman and holding everything up again, that's been an issue. But that's the only thing I can think of is why they keep dealing with Boston. Obviously, the Heim Bloom connection, but he's getting guys that they weren't even there when Heim was there.
Right.
So
right.
He's pulled some other people from other areas that are maybe more familiar with these guys, and that's why they've targeted them. But I think it's more just the fact that Boston's been ready to wheel and deal.
Now, I have no room to talk as an Angel fan because all we ever do is trade with the Braves or get old Braves prospects because of Perry Manassian's connections there. But listen,
we've had a good thing between the Angels and Cardinals
in the past.
For a few years.
True.
I mean, Edmonds.
We got Adam Kennedy from you guys.
Yeah, Dexter Fowler was
David Freese.
Wait, I probably shouldn't have brought that one up. But there's been a few that have gone through. We used to have X9 and Troy Glaus. We've had a few of your leftovers, some sloppy seconds from our life.
Well, look, we talked about the Sonny Gray trade on Locked On Angels recently. In return, the Cardinals got an MLB ready arm. They got the Red Sox number 5 prospect per MLB pipeline. So that was 2 arms to the Cards. And then they sent $20 million to the Red Sox to cover Gray's salary for 26. And then he's also got a $10 million buyout. Or no, sorry, they sent $10 million to help with the buyout in 2027. So the $20 million covers up the salary and that $10 million buyout. Also, the Wilson Contreras trade might be relevant to this conversation because they gave the Red Sox $8 million and they got 3 pitchers back, one of whom, Hunter Dobbins, also has some major league experience. So before we get to the players in our next segment that might be involved in this conversation, JD, what do you think the Cardinals are going to be willing to do in order to make this happen? Would it be similar to Sonny Gray? Would it be something else? Are you all stocked up on arms now? And how does the money work in this situation? What do you think?
Well, in Heim Bloom's words, you can never have too much pitching. So if you want to keep sending pitchers our way, then they're more than happy to look at them and take them on. I don't think that's a problem at all. And especially with this trade, because, Sonny Gray was somebody that I think a lot of people wanted. He just had to, decide where he wanted to go. Wilson Contreras the same way, but obviously he's been a very productive bat, has been better than Arenado has the last couple of seasons when he's healthy. So it just feels like it's a different place with Arenado. Well, as far as like what the expectations are in return for trading Nolan. I don't think Cardinals fans are delusional and think that, all right, well, this is Nolan Arenado from his Colorado days that was, winning home run titles and stuff. And, we should be getting top 10 prospects in return. I'm sure there's a couple crazies that think that, but I don't think the logical people believe that that's what it's going to take. And as you mentioned, when it comes to the money side of it, the Cardinals clearly aren't afraid to throw some money to the other teams to help facilitate a trade like that. So, and I don't think it's really just a full-on money thing. It's really about just opening a spot for other players where the Cardinals have some depth on the infield, some younger guys that they just want to give some more innings to, and they just can't when Nolan is who he is over at third base. Like, they're just not better than him. But at the same time, they're never going to get better if they don't play. And that's really where the issue is. And with the Cardinals being in this window of rebuilding, there's no need to have somebody like that at third base right now. And it would be better for both places, for the Cardinals and for Nolan Arenado's camp to find a better fit. Those have been the words. It's not an angry thing. Neither guy's upset with each other about anything. It's not anybody did anything wrong. It's just, we've had our time together and we're going to mutually depart so that everybody can be happy and get what they want here in the end. So I think the Cardinals are more than willing to eat some money. And I don't think it would take any upper level type of prospects to get your hands on them.
I think that the money for the Angels is going to be the priority because that's what Artie Moreno does. He operates just with being fiscally irresponsible. He thinks it's responsible. So they work just year to year. I think that this has to be significant money. I think it's got to be $15 to $20 million. Do you think the Cardinals will do that if the Angels make this trade? And then we can talk about players in the next segment. But do you think that the money will be that significant, 15 to 20 million? Will they cover this year's salary and then the Angels pay next year's salary? What are your thoughts there?
I think they would look at it as a win to do that because they would be saving the money they'd have to pay him next year. Like, and I say this about money all the time. I go, the money's already spent. Okay. You're not getting it back. It's just not going to happen. So you might as well move forward with what your vision is for the organization. And if he has to go, and by all accounts, he has to go. This is 2 years in a row that you've tried to move him and you gave him his send-off on the field this year and everything. It would be really awkward if he had to come back and play at third base.
I forgot that they did that this year.
Well, you got rid of me, didn't you? But I just feel like I think they would. I really think I don't think it's a money thing. As long as the Cardinals are clearing room for what's going to happen after the CBA gets figured out, whenever that gets figured out. I think that's what's most important to them. I don't think these next 2 years, money-wise, that they're all that concerned if they have to eat it just to move on so they're better prepared for what's coming our way in 2027.
Interesting. Yeah. And that is music to the ears of Angels fans, not because we care about like where the money's going. Every Angel fan feels like the Angels ought to be spending more money. They operate like a small market team when they are in a large market. They're in the LA media market, and it's been years since they've spent a lot of money in free agency. It's been years since they've acquired a player that, would require a substantial contract right there.
I will say this. It's not how much you spend, it's who you're spending it on. And there have been some really bad decisions made by the Angels front office, which has put you into a spot where it feels like you guys are screwing up all the time. So at least that's what it feels like from the outside looking in.
And that's why they've been so tepid on making any future moves, right? They feel like they got burned by Rendon and Hamilton and all of that stuff, and Pujols to some extent. I mean, what do you expect? The guy was already in his 30s when you signed him, right? So, but all of that to say,
he could have been 40 by then. We don't know.
He's 58 right now. But that's the thing is like the bad decision making has made this front office really tepid on spending money, and that's frustrating, especially when you have a young group of guys like Zach Neto that you're excited about, Nolan Arenado, Logan O'Hoppe, Jose Soriano, great pitcher for the Angels. So the fact that they are willing to go to a certain extent, all of that to say, I think it's significant that the Cardinals would be willing to take on some of that money. Not something that we probably would have expected, right, Mike?
No, we wouldn't have expected because I think that we are just, as Angel fans, we're we're just wondering what they're going to do next, because they've been very mysterious this offseason.
Pessimism is our mascot. You mentioned
Absolutely.
pessimism earlier. That's our mascot.
And it just has been a very mystery-filled offseason, and they have a lot of reclamation projects. And I think that there was a quote that really summarized this well, and it was from Jeff Fletcher, who writes for the OC Register here in Southern California. And Jeff said what he was hearing was the Angels either want to have reclamation projects or they want to spend money. And it was like, okay, like, yeah, sure, right? And that's the messaging that we get pretty often. And then we missed out on Okamoto, and he would have been a perfect person for third base, which is why we're having this conversation, because if they're not going to get Okamoto, if they're not going to go and sign a Bregman, the improvement at third base, it logically feels like it's Arenado, unless somebody miraculously just turns it on who's in the minor leagues and wants to be a major league player next season. But right now, this feels like the most logical move for the Angels.
Yeah, it's a good fit, at least in my opinion. And that's the thing is with Arenado, there's not a lot of options out there. It's not like there's 6-7 teams that have a massive hole at third and are looking to make this move, and there are those teams that are, sitting on Bregman and wondering whether or not he's going to go to Boston or Toronto or whoever is still in the Philly, whoever's in the running for this thing now. But not all of those places, because Arenado's still got to say, yeah, I'll come play for you. And he may not want to, but it feels like, and I know he said no last year, which I don't know what the hell he was doing, because he didn't think Houston was going to be anything. And I don't know what he was doing. It was very upsetting to us on this side to have a deal done and then to have it just, nope, not going to leave. Because that would have helped move things forward for the Cardinals a little bit quicker. But again, we had a year of purgatory where we were still just kind of stuck in neutral with the same team again. But yeah, it just feels like it would be a good fit, but I don't think it's because you have an idea too with like prospects, but also maybe there's another option perhaps to maybe make this deal happen, John.
There's some good options, and they might be good on our side, but let's run them past you and see if they would be good on the Cardinals side.
Fridays feel a whole lot different during basketball season, and FanDuel is the reason why. Every Friday night before the games tip off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern, they've become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. Opening the FanDuel app during that time always brings something new. There's boosts and bonuses and surprises. It adds extra energy to Friday night basketball without having to overthink it. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday night from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of energy on Friday night. That's NBA Happy Hour, only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA.
All right. Last topic of conversation here is the fact that there's got to be some players involved. There's got to be some wheeling and dealing going on now with, like I mentioned, with Sonny Gray, with Wilson Contreras. Cards got back a whole lot of arms, something that they've been really needing for quite some time. Now, some of the names that have been floated in an Arenado trade include Angels right-handed starter Caden Dana, right-handed starting pitcher Jack Kochanowicz. Both of those guys have MLB experience, but they haven't had great results in the majors yet. So, JD, for your audience, I'm going to share just kind of where these guys have been for the Angels so far. Caden Dana, he's been an Angels top prospect. In fact, he was a top 100 prospect for both MLB Pipeline and Baseball America before last season. I think he might have graduated from prospect status, but he really hasn't become a major leaguer quite yet. Now, his best season was actually his minor league season in AA in 2024. He had a 9-7 record, but he had a 2.52 ERA across 135 and 2/3 innings pitched, 147 strikeouts. And I love this, a 0.943 walks and hits per innings pitched. So a sub-1 whip. Can't argue with that. And he was right in line with his level of competition. But then at the majors, they brought him up, Gave him a look-see at the end of 24. They did the same thing throughout 25. 7.17 ERA across 10 appearances, 8 of those as a starter, 2 of those as a reliever in 24 and 25. Now, having said all that, he did just turn 23 back in December, so he is still very young. Mike, Jack Kochanowicz had a great start to his major league career before really struggling in 2025, didn't he?
Yeah, in 24, he had 65 innings pitched, a 3.99 ERA with a 55.6% ground ball rate. Here's the thing about that season, JD, and for your everydayers. Jack Kochanowicz could have gone 9 innings in almost every one of his starts because when they pulled him, he was in the 7th inning and he had thrown like 73, 74 pitches. I mean, he was just on top of it. Ground ball after ground ball, double play after double play. Then in 2025, 111 innings pitched with a 6.81 ERA in 23 starts. His biggest flaw is he doesn't really have an out pitch. And if he misses his location, he's in a whole lot of trouble. And they tried to get him to create an out pitch last year, and it just didn't work. And then they sent him back to the minors, brought him up, kind of messed with him a bit. So, JD, are pitchers with the Cardinals, is that something that they are even interested in? You mentioned, like, you can't never have enough arms, or are they going to need a hitter? And would the Cardinals take somebody like maybe a Jorge Soler, who is owed $13 million this year, along with maybe a Jack Kochanowicz or a Caden Dana?
Well, I'll start with the prospects. Both of them sound exactly what the Cardinals would want if they've had some issues or whatever, but depth pieces with a little bit of major league experience for the God bless you name at the end there, Kochanowicz.
Yes,
and then,
exactly. Gesundheit.
Yeah. And then the Dana, I mean, they all sound good. Like Kochanowicz, I feel like he was the one he's got a big time fastball, right? I feel like I know that.
He has a great fastball, but I looked at the heat map on StatCast just earlier and just dead red right down the middle last season.
Yeah. So there's some work to be done. But I think both of those arms being as highly rated as they both were at one point, I mean, again, I don't think any of our fans are expecting Arenado to pull any major prospects back. But if you've got some guys that you think maybe are at the end of their rope with the Angels and maybe it's time to flip them and a change of scenery, then I don't see why the Cardinals would dislike either one of those. As long as the medicals are good and they're not coming off their third Tommy John surgery or, lost a toe in some freak fan accident or something, whatever it may be. Those are the things because, the one flack that Heimblum has caught other than just dealing with the Red Sox over and over is that a couple of the guys that they brought back dealt with injuries last year. And then he signed Dustin May, who has been injured his whole career, it seems like. So you're trying to find more guys that are able to take the ball each and every 5th day, or if they have a chance to be a reliever, so somebody they can count on to be healthy. So young, durable arms that have a lot of upside, that is right down the Cardinals' alley. So those would make a lot of sense. And then as far as the Soler thing, so John and I have talked about this before because we actually talked about Ward before Ward got moved to Baltimore. Because that was somebody the Cardinals are in desperate need, in my opinion, maybe not Heimblum's, but in my opinion, of a right-handed hitter with some thump. I know Soler doesn't really play, or he hadn't played much outfield for you guys, but was able to, build up the strength and get out there when he was a Giant and a Brave for whatever reason. Which was, so many years ago, right? But he's somebody that it's interesting because on the surface, I know Cardinals fans are going to go like, "What are you, nuts? What are you doing? Why would you bring him in? He sucks. Look at his numbers." But I wouldn't rule it out if it can just facilitate a trade because the Cardinals are wanting to shed some payroll, but open up playing time for their number one prospect, who is JJ Weatherholt, who that should be priority number one because the Cardinals aren't broke. All right. Let's be very honest about that. This isn't a money thing. This is a whole thing about opening up. They would be paying Arenado if he was still really good, and so were the Cardinals. They wouldn't have a problem with it. But because of where they are, they're looking to shed the payroll now, open up the spot for them. So if you end up taking on Soler's deal, which is $13 million, I think he said,
yes,
and then perhaps you throw in $7 million more just to make a nice round even number of $20 million so that Nato can move on. And both camps will be happy then I'd do it. The Cardinals could use that right-handed bat, get a little bit of pop into their lineup after already trading Contreras and then moving Arenado in the scenario. Because if you scour the free agent market, not a whole lot of them dudes out there that have hit 30 home runs in their career at some point or another. Like maybe a Hunter Renfroe, but I mean, really, you're not going to do that. So maybe this is the guy that the Cardinals could use in that DH spot because they want Ivan Herrera, who is their big thumper of the future. He's catching, but they want him to be doing other things. They don't want him to be DH again this year. So it kind of fits a need. And if he can cover a couple innings here and there in the outfield, super duper. Contracts up at the end of the year for Soler, which is, again, the Cardinals are trying to move money off the books for the CBA. And then whatever they decide to do after that, they could do that. So they wouldn't have this like extended thing where it's going to last a couple years and drag on or whatever. So it's something that would be over right away. If you're paying, what is that? You're not only saving 17 million, but you're getting a bat in return there that fits a need. So if we can get the Angels to toss in one of those prospects along with it, more power to the Cardinals for being able to pull that off. And then, of course, the real key is trade deadline next year. You flip them to the Braves again because that's what they do. And Atlanta will take on Soler, and then you wash your hands of the whole situation. You get a prospect from them. We live happily ever after.
Thanks for making this Locked On crossover your first listen of the day. Make sure you join the Everydayer Club and get Locked On Angels and Locked On Cardinals with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and so much more. You can join for $5 a month, or you can take it up a notch and go all access, get one-on-one text access, all access episodes, an exclusive newsletter, and a 15% discount on the Locked On merch store. Go to Locked On Angels and LockedOnCardinals.supercast.com or click the link in the show notes.
Hey, be sure you catch us on social media at Locked On Angels, at Super Halo Bros. And JD, for those everydayers on the Angel side interested in following you, where can they find you?
We are at LO_Cardinals on the X. And obviously we're on YouTube and everywhere you find you guys. You can find the Cardinals and the rest of the MLB podcast from the Locked On Podcast Network. Real quick, did I win you over? Are we ready to sign this deal or what?
I'm convinced. What about you, Mike?
I'm convinced as well.
All right, there it is. Well done, JD. He convinced us, everybody. Well, thanks for being here, everyone. And we'll see you back here for another edition of Locked On Angels and Locked On Cardinals.
Who's the better brother, JD? Who's the better brother?
Ooh, quick.
All right, final answer. It is